Breaking news for you in our world lead now. A ceasefire in Syria to try and stop what's being called a complete meltdown of humanity. Sources telling CNN that rebel fighters have reached an agreement with Russia to evacuate civilians and military factions from the besieged and battered city of Aleppo. This comes amid reports that forces loyal to Syrian President Bashar al-Assad and backed by Russia executed at least 82 innocent civilians, including women and children, in the streets and in their homes yesterday. Moments ago, I spoke with Ismail Abdullah of the Syrian rescue group, the White Helmets, about the carnage he has witnessed in the last 24 hours.
Mortars were falling on this small area where all the civilians who were living in the neighborhood, which were taken by Assad forces. Many people were killed and dead bodies on the floor. We couldn't reach them because of the bombing, because of the close to the front line with Assad forces. Assad forces, they will shoot us immediately if they see us.
CNN senior international correspondent Frederick Pleitgen was in Syria just days ago. He's now in Beirut, Lebanon. And Fred, with this agreement, have the rebels effectively surrendered?
Well, I mean, they certainly have surrendered the territory, and it looks like they are going to lose their last foothold once this agreement is put into place and once those rebels factions there and also the civilians are evacuated. The way that's going to happen, Jake, is that there's going to be buses that are going to take them either to the north of Aleppo or to the west of Aleppo, two areas that are held by rebel factions there. Now, of course, this isn't a full-on surrender. They aren't surrendering themselves to the Syrian governments. They still will be free in those rebel-held areas, but certainly this is a major point, a major pivotal point in Syria's civil war, as for the first time in a very long time, the Syrian government is going to have full control of the most important Syrian city in the north of the country, one of the most important Syrian cities at all, and certainly by far the biggest prize so far in Syria's civil war. It was absolutely key to the rebels, is absolutely key to the Syrian government, and that certainly is something that was also reflected in a lot of the fighting that I've seen there over the past couple of days. Some of the heavy weapons, you could feel that the Syrian government and its allied forces, including the Russians, were making every effort to win that place back as fast as possible, and of course leaving a lot of destruction there as well. It was really a huge amount of firepower that was unleashed on that place, especially over the past couple of days, Jake.
And Fred, at this point, is there any sign that civilians are being given this safe passage that they need?
Well, you know, what's been going on over the past couple of days is that tens of thousands of civilians have already gone out, and the vast majority of them were able to get out. There was fighting that was still going on. They had to cross a battle line. It was very dangerous, but the vast majority did get out. And we saw a lot of elderly people, we saw children, but we also saw some people who seemed to be in the ages between 30 and 50, who are, of course, the men who would be most at risk. Now, there are those stories coming out of those executions that apparently have taken place. The UN says that the reports that they got came from people who have been credible in the past. They said they weren't able to independently verify it, but the people who told them that these executions took place have been credible in the past. So there's grave concern on the part of the UN, of course also on the part of the US, as to what all these pro-Assad forces are doing there in eastern Aleppo. And we also have to keep in mind that these are not just Syrian government troops. These are also Hezbollah militias. These are Iraqi Shia militias. These are Syrian Palestinian militias as well. Some of them very, very difficult to control. So certainly that's one of the reasons why the U.S. says that right now it's on the Syrian government and it's on the Russians to make sure that no atrocities are committed there, Jake.
And Fred, we've been focusing on Aleppo when it comes to the Syrian civil war, but obviously this is not only going on in Aleppo. If Aleppo falls, is that the end of the civil war? Has Assad essentially won?
You know what, he's taken a big step towards not winning, but certainly making clear that the tide is very much going in his direction. It certainly won't end Syria's civil war. There's still a lot of other factions that are involved. There's whole territories that are still very much under the control of the government. If you look around Damascus, the countryside, there's huge territories that are still held by rebels. There's territories north of Homs in central Syria. There's no way to easily drive, for instance, from Damascus to Aleppo without taking huge detours because there are still rebel-controlled areas. The entire province of Idlib, is almost completely held by the rebels as well. And then, of course, you also have ISIS in places like Raqqa, now making advances in Palmyra. So it won't end the civil war by far, but certainly as far as the rebels are concerned, the ones who wanted to get rid of Assad, he's certainly taken a huge step forward by taking back Aleppo.